An incomparably vast grassy plain extended into the distance. A lush green color filled one's eyes, emitting an exuberant life force. A majestic and towering large stone square stood here. The large stone square was around 1,000 feet in size. It was supported by a countless number of enormous stone pillars. From a distance, it appeared like a giant standing between the sky and earth, giving one a spectacular feeling. A distorted color appeared above this huge stone square. Occasionally, some silver lights would flicker and numerous figures rushed out of them to gently land in the square. This extremely spacious square was filled with people. Noise gathered together and charged to the clouds. Chi. The space in the air once again distorted at this moment. A couple of figures came out of it. These figures steadily landed on the large stone platform. They lifted their eyes and looked around them while a surprise surfaced on their faces. This should be the Goose Stone Square that is mentioned on the map. It seems that we did not take a wrong turn. The little fairy doctor smiled as she glanced around this majestic and towering large stone platform, after which she informed Xiao Yan beside her. "Aye." Xiao Yan nodded. His eyes swept over this enormous platform. With his eyesight, he was naturally able to sense that the auras on the platform were all quite strong. There were even some auras that even he had to treat seriously. It is indeed worthy of being the Gu clan. Those who can be invited by them are all true experts. This ability to gather people is really quite frightening. Tianhua Zunjia, by the side, nodded slowly and exclaimed. Xiao Yan smiled. He looked to the east. He could vaguely see the outline of an extremely enormous city at the edge of his sight. He said, "That place is our destination, the Goose Sacred City. Let's go." An impatience surfaced on Xiao Yan's face when he finished speaking. His heart was curious to learn more about this mysterious Gu realm. Moreover, there was still the tomb of his Xiao clan ancestor within the Gu realm. Being his descendant, Xiao Yan needed to make a trip there no matter what. Naturally, no one objected to Xiao Yan's words. The group ceased delaying at this moment. Their bodies moved, and they rushed into the high sky before flying in the direction of the distant city. There were quite a number of people taking the same route as Xiao Yan's group. From the flying speed of these people, it was possible to tell that they were all quite strong. However, Xiao Yan did not meet any faction that he was familiar with along the way. Only then did his heart feel awed. It was said that the Central Plains had many hidden experts. These words were indeed true now that he had experienced them. The strength of these experts was not the least bit inferior to some top faction elders. Normally, they would not reveal themselves. They kept such low profiles that it was frightening. Although the grassy plains were vast, it was nothing to Xiao Yan's group. Within less than 10 minutes, the vaguely visible city had appeared in their sight. Xiao Yan was a little stunned when he saw this city for the first time because this city was not filled with a dominating aura as they had imagined. The city was built from large pale green rocks. Perhaps it was due to the erosion of time, but this city appeared to have decayed. An unusually ancient aura spread from the city, causing one to sense a slight ancient feeling. As they approached, Xiao Yan's group finally discovered that this ancient city was encased in a transparent light barrier. This light barrier might appear thin and frail, but it created a pressure that seemed to originate from the soul. This pressure caused quite a number of people's expressions to change. Respect appeared on the faces of the experts familiar with the origins of the city. This Gu sacred city has stood since ancient times. It is rumored that it was built by the elite Dodi from the Gu clan. The light barrier contains part of the Dodi strength. With the protection of this light barrier, this Gu sacred city is impenetrable. Tianhua Zunjia softly explained. It seemed that he was familiar with this city. Dodi's strength. No wonder it is this frightening. Xiao Yan came to a sudden understanding. No wonder the pressure he felt within his soul was growing denser the closer he approached the city. As an act of respect to an elite Dodi, flying is forbidden within a 10,000-foot radius of the Gu sacred city. We will have to walk in on foot. Otherwise, the pressure would increase. Tian Huazunjia smiled, after which he took the lead to land on the ground. Xiao Yan's group quickly followed from behind. Their speed was not reduced even after they had landed. They transformed into numerous blurry figures that quickly rushed to the ancient city. Xiao Yan's group slowly stopped in front of the entrance to the Gu sacred city. The Gu sacred city was not a city that one could randomly enter. Unless one obtained an invitation from the Gu clan, an ordinary person was prohibited from entering it. Although the procedure to enter the city was extremely complicated, no one dared to behave atrociously due to the renowned reputation of the Gu clan. Xiao Yan's group followed the rest of the people and slowly advanced. Sometime later, they finally arrived at the entrance of the city. Xiao Yan swept his gaze around, only to see nearly 100 black-armored figures holding long spears and standing straight on both sides of the city's gate. Sharp eyes continued to roam around. Wave after wave of powerful auras radiated their bodies, causing one to involuntarily exclaim that the Gu clan was really grand. Xiao Yan's eyes shifted away from these black-armored human figures. Suddenly, they paused on a familiar figure at the city's entrance. His eyes immediately narrowed.
Lingquan.
A figure was standing tall and straight at the entrance to the city. The pale green armor that he wore caused him to appear a little colder. His back swayed with the wind, causing him to appear to be in high spirits. This familiar figure was naturally that of the commander of the Black Submerged Army, Lingquan, who had formed a grudge with Xiao Yan. It was unexpected that Xiao Yan would end up meeting Lingquan the moment he arrived at Gu Sacred City. It was really the case of enemies frequently crossing paths. When Xiao Yan noticed Lingquan, Lingquan's cold stern eyes found him. Lingquan was immediately startled before his face swiftly became dark and solemn. Xiao Yan, who allowed you to head to this place? Lingquan's ugly expression and cold cry caused quite a number of eyes to emit a swoosh sound as they shifted. Finally, they paused on Xiao Yan with some surprise. The matter of Xiao Yan having become the champion of the pill gathering had already spread across the Central Plains. The current Xiao Yan possessed a great reputation in the Central Plains. However, from the looks of his appearance now, it seemed that this pill-gathering champion had some grudge with this young commander from the Gu clan. Xiao Yan's expression remained calm in the face of Lingquan's cold cry. He flicked his finger, and a jade invitation appeared from his storage ring. It carried a sharp wind as it explosively shot toward Lingquan. Humph! Lingquan's expression sank when he saw this invitation. He let out a cold snort as Doqi lingered on his hand. He suddenly reached out and caught the jade invitation. Qi! When Lingquan's hand touched the jade invitation, a frightening temperature suddenly materialized from it, burning his palm until a dense, white fog was emitted. The intense pain that caused Lingquan's expression to become gloomy. However, it was fortunate that he was not an ordinary person. He clenched his teeth and forcefully endured it. His hand tapped the jade invitation and absorbed the information from within it. So you are actually from the Falling Star Pavilion. How can such a faction receive an invitation from my Gu clan? Lingquan coldly laughed. His tone contained some disdain. The old Falling Star Pavilion did not possess the qualification to receive such an invitation. It is written on it. If you are illiterate, you can go and ask the members of your Gu clan. Return the jade invitation. Xiao Yan faintly instructed. Xiao Yan's tone caused Lingquan to furiously grit his teeth. His hand gripped the jade invitation tighter as he coldly said, "You can just come over and take it." Puff! Lingquan's words had just sounded when he suddenly sensed his eyes become dazzled. The jade invitation in his hand immediately left it. By the time he recovered, the jade invitation had appeared in Xiao Yan's hand in front of him. This caused Lingquan's face to turn red almost instantly. It was unexpected that he had only just uttered these words when Xiao Yan had snatched back the jade invitation. He had lost a great amount of face. Bastard! This Lingquan appeared to have forgotten his current identity because of his anger from this embarrassment. He let out a furious cry. Sharp wind violently slammed toward Xiao Yan. Bang! The palm wind of Lingquan danced. Before he could strike Xiao Yan, his eyes were dazzled once again. A leg smashed into his chest with lightning-like speed. The frightening force sent him flying backwards before he collided with the city wall. Grug! A mouthful of fresh blood was spat out of Lingquan's mouth after he fell from the city wall. His face was filled with disbelief and shock. When he had met Xiao Yan in the Yi clan back then, his strength was still 1 star higher than Xiao Yan's. Back then, he might not have been able to defeat Xiao Yan, but he was still able to exchange blows. Now, however, he was unable to even see Xiao Yan's attack before he was utterly defeated. The gap between the two had already pulled apart by a terrifying extent. This extreme change almost caused his arrogant self to vomit blood. How many years has it been? The brat that he had viewed like an ant at the inner academy back then was already standing on his head. Some surprise flashed across the eyes of the surrounding people when they saw Xiao Yan force a 1-star Do Zun back with a kick. They had not expected Xiao Yan to possess such attainments for Do Qi, along with his great achievements in medicinal refinement. Commander Lingquan, I'm sorry that my blow was a little heavy. However, please avoid doing such a stupid thing next time. After all, there aren't many who hold back like me. Xiao Yan flicked the jade invitation into his storage ring, after which he glanced at the shocked face of Lingquan and smiled as spoke. Black submerged section, capture him. Lingquan furiously cried out. His eyes immediately reddened when he saw the smile on Xiao Yan's face. Swoosh! The 100 black-armored Gu clan warriors standing before the city's entrance did not hesitate when they heard this furious cry. The long spears in their hands immediately emitted swoosh sounds as they were aimed at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's expression slowly became gloomy when he saw this scene. The little fairy doctor and the rest beside Xiao Yan became gloomy when they saw the many black submerged army warriors pointing the long spears in their hands at Xiao Yan. Their bodies moved, and they appeared beside Xiao Yan. Their vast and mighty Do Qis quietly surged. The atmosphere at the city's gate had become a swords drawn when as both parties faced each other. Some people's eyes were observing Xiao Yan's group with some interest. They were surprised that his group dared to attack a member of the Gu clan at the Gu sacred city. Lingquan, as the commander of the Black Submerged Army, are you planning on abusing your authority for a private grudge? This jade invitation was issued by the Gu clan. Since we possess this jade invitation, we are guests of the Gu clan. With your status, you do not have the qualification to capture me, right? Xiao Yan's face sank as he coldly laughed. Lingquan's was dull when he heard this. He was just about to let out a cold cry when a loud shout suddenly exploded from beyond the city wall. A figure rushed down in a lightning-like manner. It landed heavily in front of the city gate like a metal tower. Lingquan, what are you doing? Lingquan's expression changed when he saw that figure rushing down from the city wall. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, "It's nothing." Nothing? That human figure frowned when he heard this. His eyes drifted toward Xiao Yan's group. Using this opportunity, Xiao Yan got a clear look of this person's face. Like Lingquan, this person was wearing bright armor. However, his aura was clearly much stronger than Lingquan's aura. Based on Xiao Yan's senses, he should be an expert 3-star Do Zun. Greetings to 5th Commander. The surrounding black submerged army warriors respectfully cried out when they saw this man. One of them swiftly summarized the events that had occurred earlier. You are that Xiao Yan? The man wearing the light green armor was startled when he heard the name Xiao Yan. He frowned and glanced at Xiao Yan again. His expression vaguely contained an extremely faint enmity. Falling Star Pavilion Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's face was calm. He cupped his hands to this man, who was called Fifth Commander, in front of him. That's right. He is that Xiao Yan who young Miss has mentioned. Lingquan coldly laughed. His eyes tried to bore into Xiao Yan. That gaze of his was filled with envy and an unwillingness as he said, "Are you planning on allowing him in now?" Xiao Yan slowly knit his brows when he heard the conversation between the two. It seemed that quite a number of people in the Gu clan were aware of his name, probably because of Sunir. The fifth commander was quiet for a moment. His eyes were complicated as he glanced at Xiao Yan. After which, he turned his head and furiously chided Lingquan. "Do you have any brain? He possesses a jade invitation. That means he is a guest invited by our Gu clan. These actions of yours, are you planning to allow others to mock our Gu clan for not knowing etiquette?" Lingquan's face alternated between green and white after being furiously reprimanded by Fifth Commander, but he was unable to say much due to the other party having a higher status than him. All he could do was let out a cold snort and withdraw. "Mr. Xiao Yan, please enter. Please wait in the Goose Sacred City for a couple of days. There will be someone who will bring all of you into the Gu realm when the time comes." After reprimanding Lingquan, the fifth commander cupped his hands to Xiao Yan as he spoke in a deep voice. Xiao Yan nodded. Although this fifth commander had formed a hint of animosity for him, he was impartial. This was much better than Lingquan. However, the thing that caused Xiao Yan to feel some doubt was that this was the first time he had met this person. Where did his enmity come from? Could it be still because of Sunir? Xiao Yan bitterly laughed in his heart. As the saying went, a beauty brought trouble. Moreover, Sunir's beauty could bring disaster to a country and its people. He had a premonition that this trip to the Gu clan would not be smooth. Xiao Yan led the little fairy doctor and the rest into the city. While he was walking by the fifth commander hesitated for a moment before cupping his hands together to say, "If this is not too abrupt, may I find time to spar with Mr. Xiao Yan? I really wish to see if you are really compatible with young Miss." The last sentence was as weak as a housefly. However, it clearly formed in Xiao Yan's ears. Upon hearing this sentence, Xiao Yan sighed. As expected, I. Xiao Yan slowly nodded and did not open his mouth to make an excuse to reject it. He was clearly aware of Sunir's status within the Gu clan. With her demeanor and talent along with her extremely great beauty, it was likely that most of the young and handsome men within this Gu realm possessed some feelings for her. They would naturally treat Xiao Yan as a love rival who posed the greatest threat. Xiao Yan clearly understood that this kind of sparring would increase in the future. Moreover, these matches would progress beyond sparring. Xiao Yan's heart felt miserable because of his future fate. He waved his hand and led the little fairy doctor's group into this ancient city in front of many gazes. A dark chill flashed across Lingquan's eyes as he watched Xiao Yan's back disappear. He softly muttered, "Xiao Yan, it was fine if you hide outside. Now that you have come to the Gu clan and invited in humiliation, you can only blame yourself for being blind. With this little strength of yours, you do not possess the qualifications to act fiercely among the younger generation of my Gu clan." Xiao Yan was naturally unable to hear Lingquan's dark voice. His group passed through the city wall and entered the city, which permeated with an ancient aura. The current Gu sacred city was lively. Human traffic frequently filled the streets. Although there wasn't as much human traffic compared to other cities, most of people who could walk within this city possessed a great strength. We should head to the area within the city that is set up for people to rest. I have already made inquiries. The door that heads to the Gu realm will be opened in 3 days. All of us have to remain in this Gu sacred city during these 3 days. The little fairy doctor smiled as she explained the situation to the group after she had obtained some information. Xiao Yan tilted his head in acknowledgement. His eyes swept around him as he softly made a comment. This Gu sacred city is filled with all sorts of people, and they are all strong individuals. We should be careful during these few days. Xiao Yan took the lead. He started to slowly walk to the middle of the city after uttering those words. The little fairy doctor and the rest swiftly followed behind. The group shuttled through the city for over 10 minutes before arriving at the middle. A spacious manor with towering buildings stood here. There was a continuous flow of people entering and leaving the entrance of the manor. The numerous powerful auras that spread caused Xiao Yan's group to exchange sidelong glances with each other. By relying on the Gu clan's jade invitation, Xiao Yan's group successfully entered the manor. After which, they followed a pretty female servant to a quiet house. Due to them having traveled non-stop during this period of time, most of them felt a little tired after entering the quiet house. They chatted briefly before finding their own rooms to rest. A lady in pale green clothes was seated within a dense cloud that lingered over a mountain. The fog churned, causing her to appear just like a fairy with her ethereal demeanor. Young Master Xiao Yan has reached Gu Sacred City. An elderly figure flashed and appeared on the mountain top while the quiet lady's eyes were shut. He respectfully informed the young lady after appearing. The elder's words had just sounded when he sensed the space in front of him rippling. When he raised his head, he discovered that the lady had already appeared in front of him. That pretty face, which contained a smile, caused the pretty scene around to instantly become much dimmer. Who else could this face belong to other than Sunir? Old Ling, is he well? The young lady's gentle voice appeared to possess a special demonic force. Even the clouds of this place rippled because of it. The current young master Xiao Yan is no longer someone that the old me can see through based on the information that I have received. Lingquan, whose strength is at the 1-star Dozun class, was unable to even last one exchange in Xiao Yan's hands. Young Master Xiao Yan is at least a 4-star Dozun, the old man sighed. His tone contained an exclamation that he could not hide. When he had been protecting Xiao Yan back then, he had merely been a small doja. However, within a short 10 years or so, that tender youth from back then had reached a stage where even the old man couldn't tell his strength. Young Mrs. Eyesight is indeed good. Sunir smiled when she heard Ling Ying's exclamation. She had been undertaking a deep retreat during these years. The matters of the outside world had seldom entered her ears. Even though this was the case, she understood that the current Xiao Yan was definitely well known in the Central Plains because she had believed in his strength from the beginning. Even when he was down and out, she still believed in him. However, young miss, the matter that you announced in the clan some time ago will likely cause young Master Xiao Yan some trouble. Ling Ying hesitated for a moment before speaking. I believe in him. Sunir smiled but did not give an additional explanation. The matters of the heart were extremely mysterious. Time was unable to cause them to disappear. Instead, time had brewed this feeling until it was mellow and fragrant. Even though the status and strength of the two had undergone a great change, their lives from the small Wu Ten city still existed in their hearts. Those tender feelings had finally matured. Ling Ying could only bitterly laugh when he heard her silence. Some time ago, this blessed child within the Gu clan had used a calm tone to utter some words that caused all the elders' faces to twitch during an elder meeting. The elders on the elder meeting had been discussing the matter of her marriage after she had left her retreat. These words were the reason why Xiao Yan faced the enmity from the young geniuses of the Gu clan the moment he arrived in Gu's sacred city. Regardless of whether all of you oppose or support me, I only like him, and none of you will be able to change that fact. Just this one sentence alone caused the faces of most of the elders in the Gu clan to turn green. When warm sunlight glinted through the window the next morning, Xiao Yan, who had been training, slowly opened his eyes. The space around Xiao Yan formed a mysterious fluctuation the moment he opened his eyes. Wave after wave of different colored doqi quietly poured into Xiao Yan's brows. Finally, they merged with his soul. With this great single soul skill, my spiritual training is progressing quite fast. An expression of being full of praise surfaced on Xiao Yan's face when he sensed the full feeling that was being transmitted from the spot between his brows. He had worked hard to practice the great single soul skill the moment he had any free time. The gains he had obtained were quite great. His spiritual aura, which had been extremely difficult to increase, was automatically improved by nature when he circulated the great single soul skill. This strange method was indeed worthy of being an item from ancient times. Xiao Yan smiled and stood up from his bed. He stretched his body before pushing the door to his room open. He exited the room. After finding Little Fairy Doctor and the others, the entire group left the house. This large manor had already filled with experts from all over. These experts either possessed a great strength or had a powerful faction supporting them. It was naturally lively when these people gathered together. Xiao Yan's group idly roamed around before stopping at a wine shop that occupied a vast part of the manor. There was a big stone platform in the middle of this large wine shop. Doqi erupted from the stone platform as two figures exchanged blows with lightning-like speed. The interesting fight caused many observers to repeatedly cry out, "Good." The two people on the platform were about 6-star dozongs. They were experts with some reputation in the outside world. However, they didn't attract Xiao Yan. His group found a table in the wine shop that was close to the window before sitting down. Their eyes swept over the wine stop and discovered quite a number of people with great strength. "Have you inquired about some information related to that black submerged army?" After a female servant served tea, Xiao Yan glanced at the fight on the stage before softly asking. He was about to make contact with this Gu clan. Naturally, he needed to gain a greater understanding of them. This so-called black submerged army was rumored to be where the strongest warriors of the Gu clan gathered, and it possessed an extremely powerful fighting strength. Xiao Yan needed to obtain some news with regards to them. The little fairy doctor grinned and nodded. She exchanged looks with Tianhua Zunjia before softly replying, "The status of the black submerged army is quite high within the Gu clan because a harsh selection requirement is imposed. Not only must they be absolutely loyal to the Gu clan, they must also reach a certain level by a certain age. It is rumored that the black submerged army is tested every year. Those who fail to meet the test requirements are expelled. Hence, the quality of the black submerged army is quite high." Xiao Yan nodded slowly when he heard this. From the looks of those black armored guards at the city's gate, he was aware that the warriors of this black submerged army were not mediocre individuals. All of them would be talented warriors that would be extremely hard to find in the outside world. The black submerged army has an extremely strict division of ranks. There are 8 great commanders. That Lingquan and the 5th commander are among these people. However, that Lingquan is ranked 7th. Tianhua Zunjia by the side smiled as he revealed some information. "Lingquan is merely ranked 7th, huh?" Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes. Lingquan had the strength of a 1-star dozun, while that 5th commander possessed the strength of a 3-star dozun. Then, would the 1st commander of the black submerged army possess a strength of 6 stars or higher? It is indeed worthy of being the Gu clan. Xiao Yan gently nodded. Those among the younger generation who could reach the strength of a 6-star dozun were definitely great geniuses. Although the members of the Gu clan possessed the Do-Di bloodline, these commanders still showed off the clan's great strength. The current Yu is not very likable in the eyes of these young geniuses from the Gu clan. Quite a number of them even view you as a love rival. I think that you will find your time in the Gu clan to be quite frustrating." The little fairy doctor covered her mouth and softly laughed. There should not be many members of the Gu clan who are aware of the relationship between Sunir and I, right? Xiao Yan frowned and asked. There weren't many some time ago. However, according to the information that I have gathered, this matter is known by everyone because Sunir has personally admitted the relationship between the two of you during an elders' meeting. The little fairy doctor laughed. Xiao Yan was stunned. He bitterly laughed. This girl, she is really quite bold. However, if that is what she has said, then so be it. This matter would ultimately be exposed. As for the geniuses of the Gu clan, they can do as they like. I have been aware from the very beginning that I would not find much peace within this Gu realm. Xiao Yan was already familiar with Sunir's great beauty and allure. This Gu clan also possessed many geniuses. Being talented, these young people would definitely not be fond of an ordinary lady. Hence, Sunir, who not only possessed an extremely beautiful appearance but also an exceeding talent, would naturally be the target of their pursuit. Among the 8 great commanders, more than half of them view you as a love rival who pose the greatest threat. If you meet them, they will definitely find an excuse to spar with you. The little fairy doctor laughed. Of course, I think that the ones who pose the greatest threat aren't these people. Instead, it will be the 4 great generals. 4 great generals? The true upper echelon of the Black Submerged Army can be summarized as the 8 great commanders, the 4 great generals, and the 2 leaders of the Black Submerged Army, the Black Submerged Dukes. The little fairy doctor explained. These 4 great generals are ultimate geniuses even within the Gu clan filled with many talents. All of them are brilliant individuals. Based on their potentials, they will become the true core members of the Gu clan in the future. Xiao Yan was quiet. A solemnness surged into his heart. What he had obtained at this age of his was at the top within the Central Plains. However, now that he had arrived at this Gu clan, which was filled with talent, he finally understood that such an achievement was not enough to be proud of. Since the rank of these generals was higher than the commanders, it was likely that even the weakest general would be stronger than the first commander. If one thought about it, the strength of these 4 great generals would be similar to the 9th Tianzuan of the Hall of Souls. Is the Dodi bloodline really so powerful? Xiao Yan slowly exhaled a breath of air. He truly sensed some pressure. His training speed was already elusive in the eyes of those from the same generation, but it still appeared a little weak when compared with the ultimate geniuses from the Gu clan. There is always someone better. This phrase is indeed true. Although I am not aware of the 4 highly respected generals' attitudes toward you, Sunir is a blessed child of the Gu clan. The attraction she poses to geniuses like them is incomparable. Therefore, you should pay more attention. The little fairy doctor reminded Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes. A ruthless expression flashed through them. Forget about just how strong these so-called generals were. No one could stop the relation between him and Sunir. Although he only possessed the strength of a 5-star Dozun, he was unafraid of even a 7 or 8-star elite Dozun if they were to really fight. Hence, he hoped that these 4 great commanders did not think of him as some soft persimmon. Those who possess the Dodi bloodline indeed have a smooth training path. However, this speed halts just before the Doshang class. Even though an ancient clan like the Gu clan possesses many elite Dozuns, there aren't many people who can step into the Doshang class. If one wishes to advance to that level, one can only rely on oneself. At such a moment, the Dodi bloodline becomes a burden. Therefore, you need not compete with these fellows in terms of your current achievements. When you reach the Doshang class in the future, these people might only remain in the Dozun class. Tianhua Zunjia stretched his lazy waist and laughed. Xiao Yan nodded. An elite Doshang was a peak existence in this world. Although the Dodi bloodline was powerful, it was impossible to create a large number of such experts. Otherwise, it would be opposing the laws of the world. While Xiao Yan's group drank and chatted among themselves, Two icy-cold gazes from the upper level of this wine shop had locked onto Xiao Yan. He is that Xiao Yan? A young, handsome green-robed man glanced at Xiao Yan's back. His unusually long hand was gently knocking on the rail as he asked in a faint voice. Third brother, he is that Xiao Yan who young Miss mentioned. He possesses a great reputation within the Central Plains. His arrogance has not diminished a little even now that he has come to our Gu clan. A cold laugh replied. By following the sound and looking over, that person was Lingquan, who had been kicked by Xiao Yan yesterday. This is not the Central Plains, the green-clothed man smiled. His smile contained a faint chill as he said, although we might not catch the eyes of young Miss, someone of such a level should also not have that qualification. You better not do anything reckless. They are guests. A strongly built man frowned as he spoke. He was the 5th commander from yesterday. Relax. Everything will happen according to the rules. The green man laughed in a dark yet gentle manner. Clang. After his voice sounded, a victor was decided among the two figures fighting on the stone stage below. The both of them withdrew. Immediately, a loud, clear voice attracted everyone's gazes. A skinny man leaped up and cried out loud. The ones who will fight next will be the 3rd commander of the Black Submerged Army, Yang Hao, and the champion of the Pill Gathering, Xiao Yan. A short distance away, Xiao Yan's hand, which had just lifted a teacup, suddenly shook. Immediately, his face slowly turned gloomy. He seemed to have fallen into someone's trap,